Firstly, I think it's important for me to say probably the most useful thing that all of us can do, that we should do on a constant basis, is to get together as a community and to make sure that the flame does not die. To get together as a community to tell not just the Chinese, but every other oppressive regime in the world that the people in their country are never alone, that the people in their country have supporters. I hope that the next conference won't be too far and it'll have at least twice as many people as this, because that's the language that those folks understand. Thank you, David. Let me first of all also acknowledge one of those who has inspired me in this never-ending, and it never will end, because we are humans, and this challenge will be with us forever. But David Kilgore has been one of those who I have admired, worked with, and haven't seen you for a while. Good to see you. You lose some weight. You look good for an old man. I know you're old because we're about the same age. Ladies and gentlemen, when I walked in, they asked me to do an interview. And one of the questions that I was asked was, what do you say to those who say that the economy is more important than human rights? And I said to them, you're an idiot. I would say to them, you're not just wrong and misinformed. You have no idea what you're talking about. Without human rights, without fundamental freedoms, without the ability to be able to criticize your government or your neighbor or the guy that's in charge of the local branch of whatever the hell Communist Party operatic it is, money means nothing. Without fundamental freedom of the press, without being able to practice your spiritual beliefs, money means nothing. Throughout history, people have died. Throughout history, people have fought for freedoms. Some people fight for money, but the vast majority of conflicts have been about freedoms, fundamental rights of the human spirit. So, when somebody says to me, are the economic issues more important than human rights? I say only to economic prostitutes. And yes, there are some. And a hell of a lot of them are in China. And let's not dilute ourselves. Who are these people? This is not about an ideology. This is about power. This is about a group of people that want everything for themselves, and they're using excuses to keep everybody else away from what they not only have a right to, but what they deserve. This is what we have to understand. That there's a small group of people in China that want to control everything, that want to have the power, and they're using this sort of ideology, the Communist Party, to make it look like that it's a large, supported phenomenon in their country. Ladies and gentlemen, as I said before, we have to speak loud. We have to be visible. But you know what? Words are cheap. We should speak, but we should also act. I don't believe that words will ever really hurt the Chinese or be listened to by other regimes around the world, be it Syria, North Korea, where the buffoon runs everything. So what do we have to do? We have to stand up and let the Chinese and let the North Koreans and let the Syrians know. And we have to be prepared to raise a flag and walk up and down a street. The conference is fine. That a lot of nice words will be said here today. A lot of inspiring speeches, which mean absolutely nothing unless they're followed up with some action. And if the action means you have to stand in front of a firing squad, that's what you have to do if you believe in human rights and values. Let me also tell you something else. My Tibetan friends, some of whom are here, know that many years ago, together with a couple of other white folks and 15 or 20 Tibetans, for about 3 weekends, I stood in front of the Eaton Center with a banner that said, "Boycott Made in China." We did that. I was not criticized, but I was asked to stop. You know by whom? His Holiness the Dalai Lama. He said, to be able to solve the problem, we have to talk to the Chinese. We have to engage the Chinese. To be able to solve the problem, we have to understand that the Chinese are my brothers and sisters. So that when we talk about taking certain types of actions, we must not isolate China from the world. Particularly, we must not isolate China from the Western world that practices those values that we talk about. So the engagement with China is part of the solution, but we can't do it with weakness. We have to demand a piece of flesh each and every time. The business that we're doing with China, you know, some of the speakers here are right. They need us more than we need them. And every time we make a deal with them, we have to get something in exchange for we giving up our resources. And we have to do that to the degree that it's possible without, again, isolation. So there has to be a very strong, principled, balanced approach to how we deal with China, and it starts with things of this nature. It doesn't end with a conference. This conference should finish with an action plan. And I'll tell you one of the things that you can support starting today. Next year is the 25th anniversary of the massacre at Tiananmen Square. The Chinese are trying to hide this. They don't want anybody to know. Well, those of you who know can tell your friends that for 24, 23 years, every anniversary I spoke in Parliament about the butchers of Tiananmen Square. On the 20th anniversary, I held a conference over there. Next year is 25 years. If nothing else, let us make a commitment that for the 25th anniversary of the Tiananmen Square massacre, we're going to be there, we're going to bring our friends, we're going to bring our family, we're going to give money to the cause so we can make it bigger and stronger. That's a message that the Chinese understand. So I'll end with this just by saying I'll be with you all day today. Hope to talk to many of you. And I want to thank you for doing this. Because if there aren't courageous people like you, and yes, maybe David and I aren't going to be visited by somebody because we're not Chinese. But the Chinese people who are here are courageous people. And let's recognize that, and let's thank them, and let's support them. Thank you very much.